Talked about the progressive era happening in the U.S. We also had a progressive era here in California, and it's important to study California because we are truly the crossroads of America here in California. We have a young demographic. Latinos make up 35% of the population, and 60% of that is of Mexican heritage. California would be in the top 10 if it was its own country, and we have now 39 million people. And I just saw a note in a couple of days ago that we may be up to 40 million people. Just kind of a little bit of a history of California, nothing that you really need to know for any type of exam, but stuff to know that if you are from California, important parts of history. And we became a state through the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo when the Mexican-American War ended, and a lot of territory was sent over to the United States from Mexico. The Gold Rush, Transcontinental Railroad, all things that are important, but let's focus more about California as a whole and some of the tools that Californians have at their disposal. For the most part, California is a very democratic state. San Francisco and LA areas are going to be somewhat liberal. San Diego and Orange County are going to be a little bit more conservative, though, as we've seen in the past couple elections, this has changed a bit. I think you can consider San Diego and Orange County to be a very light blue now as opposed to a red area. Especially with some of the decisions that have been made. Obviously, it depends on the areas in Orange County and San Diego. Obviously, anything in San Diego north of the 8 might tend to be a little bit more conservative. And if we talk about Orange County, areas like maybe Newport Beach and Irvine, where it's a little bit more affluent, might be a little bit more Republican. We have 53 representatives in the House. We have assembly members and state senators here. We have our own legislature, which is composed of 40 senators and 80 members of the assembly. Let's talk about direct democracy and some of the things that is used. In the wake of the progressive era, Hiram Johnson, who was governor at the time, wanted to kind of bring direct democracy to the people. And this involves the initiative, referendum, and recall, and we'll talk about these in a minute. These yellow states here show that states that have some direct democracy within it, where citizens can actually go out and put things on the ballot in order for them to kind of get laws passed here. And as we see through every other election, we have a lot of initiatives that we have to deal with, and these are the propositions that we always hear. Placing an initiative is relatively easy here. We'll talk about the steps. And initiatives are binding, and the legislatures can't change them, right? So once an initiative is put into place, the California legislature can't change them. So here's a little bit information of the three. So here in California, we can use a direct initiative, and that means two ways, right? We can either take a direct initiative to amend the state constitution, or we can make a direct initiative where we build a law. So either make an amendment to the Constitution or building a law is, a thing that the citizens of California can use. So you need is an idea and $2,000. What you do is you put a $2,000 deposit along with your idea. The federal government, the state government will check it. They'll review it for 30 days and give citizens the right to discuss the initiative. The Attorney General's office here in California will then take a look at it and check the legality of it. They will complete language for a petition. And then once you are all set, your fiscal impact must be reviewed, and that must be noted on the initiative. A couple of things you have to go get out. You have to go get signatures, and it has to require the number that is equal to the number of voters in the last gubernatorial election. So if we are going to do an initiative to amend the Constitution of California, we need 8% of the population that voted in the last gubernatorial election to sign. So that is approximately about 585,000 signatures. For a state law or a statutory initiative, you need 5% or 365 signatures, 365,000 signatures. So it could be cumbersome, but a lot of these big businesses that have an interest might help pay people to put things on petitions. you can get anything on the ballot, no matter how popular it is. There was an example in 1994 where California tried to enact the 3 strikes and you're outlaw, which did not qualify. Or anything wacky can get on, like the prohibition of horse slaughter and sale of horse meat for human consumption act of 1998, which qualified and passed. Once all your signatures are collected, they do a random sample check. And if we took a look at, some instances, if you are imposing a new tax in California, if you're proposing to raise a tax in California, you're going to need 2/3 majority vote to get that passed, so 66%. In San Diego, we had an issue with that with the Chargers, who eventually left, and we'll go into that. If the tax was proposed by a citizen, you only need 51% of the vote, all right? So we're raising a tax or we're building a new tax, and it's proposed by the legislature, you need 2/3 or 66% to approve. If you're proposing a raise of tax and you're a citizen only, you only need 51%. Prop 13, I'm going to post a pretty good video about Prop 13. I want you guys to watch it. Prop 13 originally, before 1978, our property tax was 3% of our assessed value. Prop 13 tried to cut property tax, and property tax is used to fund schools, fire, police, and public services. It sought to lower the tax to 1% of your assessed value. So if your house is worth $300,000, your property tax is going to be $3,000. Okay, it eventually passed. We lost a bunch of funding as a result of that. We lost $3 billion of funding in schools overnight. Some of the other more controversial propositions was Prop 8, which was eventually overturned by the Supreme Court, which tried to define marriage as a union between a man and a woman. That passed with 52% of the vote. It was later, like I said, determined to be unconstitutional. Now, a few years ago, the Chargers sought money to build a new stadium. They would raise hotel tax from 12.5% to 16.5%. The city would then contribute $1 billion to the project. The Chargers would have contributed $300 million, and the NFL would have contributed $350 million. We talked a little bit about the pros in this. Cities that have these type of stadiums attract Super Bowls, Final Fours, wrestling, and they generate a lot of revenue for the city. One key thing that proposition also looked at, or that measure as they called it, Measure C, was also an expansion of the convention center. And I don't know if any of you are in San Diego or know about the big thing in San Diego every July. It's Comic-Con, right? And Comic-Con has kind of outgrown the convention center. They say generally that Comic-Con for that weekend generates approximately $700 million in revenue for the county. That, whether it's bars, hotels, restaurants, sightseeing, it brings in a lot of money because a lot of the Comic-Con visitors come from out of state or from away from San Diego. So that's a really interesting term. Some of the cons of this was, should we be giving billionaires free money? Our public parks library is more important. And then at that time, which was a key point, you needed a 66% vote. They actually didn't even get close to 50. I think Measure C only had a 42% approval rate. Chargers would eventually move to LA. Comic-Con can move to LA or Orange County as well. Comic-Con is, I think, contractually tied to San Diego until 2021, so we'll see what that takes us. Okay, a referendum is a little bit different. Remember, a referendum is a law that the state has passed, but they want the citizens to vote on it. So it doesn't happen often. I have some stats for you to look at. And we also have a recall where we can recall people out of office. Governor Gray Davis led to the election of Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was recalled in 2003, 2004, I believe. There was an attempt to recall Judge Aaron Persky. I don't know if you guys know the Brock Turner case, but I encourage you to read it and see what happened. He gave Brock Turner, who raped an unconscious woman, gave him 6 months in jail when it was a 2-year crime, and he eventually only did 3 months and got out. they thought he was a little lenient in the case. We have accusation of white privilege in this. He was recalled and eventually was voted out of office. So you could see that the recall processes do work. Here's some information about what you need to recall somebody. So take a look at that. And I just wanted to also bring in the direct democracy aspect, because it's not required that I teach this, but I do like people to know about it so we can be familiar with it, and you know what we mean now with propositions and referenda and recalls and all that stuff now. Okay, if you have any questions, let me know. I will see you soon.